What's up, YouTube? Getting your portfolio critiqued is one of the most important ways to improve your work and help you build a tough skin in the ad industry. As a creative, you should see every critique as an opportunity. Just try not to take it personally. Whenever anyone critiques your book, remember that that's just one person's opinion, right or wrong. And you should still keep anything in your book that you're proud of or that you feel like represents you and your skill set. I've been getting lots of emails from you all asking me to critique your portfolio, and I've done every single one. I've loved it. It's been fun. So much so that I think reviewing people's portfolios on this channel could help people who are building their first portfolios. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Interspersed with my regular content, I'm gonna start reviewing a lot of y'all's portfolios, with your permission, of course. So send in your portfolios if you'd like me to review those, and I'll be sure to try to get to them. But before we get to yours, I'm gonna be extremely vulnerable for a second, roll back time, and review my first student portfolio before I got into the advertising industry. Slightly terrified to show it to you guys, but here goes nothing. All right, guys, let's start this thing. Okay, so campaign number 1, the first campaign I ever did in school. This is it. This is where it all started, people. Thank God I'm better than this now, I think. So this is for Desitin baby rash cream, and the idea here was that Desitin rash cream helps you control the pain. So we turned down the volume on the pain, we fast forward through the pain, we muted the pain, and we did this through this print campaign with also this little promotional pacifier that mutes your baby, because basically that's what a pacifier does. It stops them from crying. Overall, design-wise, not the greatest. Never, ever, ever, I shouldn't say never, but like you probably shouldn't put any kind of outer glow on your design elements, especially the logo. The client will freak out, so don't do that. I definitely could have worked on the illustration of these kids. They were originally photographs. We used some Photoshop filters or something and then outlined it roughly in Photoshop, not Illustrator. So I would tell my old self to get my vector graphic skills better in Illustrator and pen tool this sucker just so everything's clean and sharp. But not a worse first try. At least it was showing I was trying to be conceptual when I got in the game. Also, color palette really bad. Colors don't really go together that well from piece to piece, and for a brand like Desitin, yeah, they don't hit the mark. But overall, at least I was trying to think about stuff, and I'd give this, just for the idea alone, maybe a 4 out of 10. We'll go 4 out of 10. That's good. These scores are completely arbitrary and don't mean anything, but I'm gonna be doing this because I just like to give things something from a 1 out of 10. Okay, so now we're going to Ancestry.com. I actually like this. I think for a student, this campaign was cool looking, and I kind of like the idea behind it. And we had some kick-ass copywriter in our group named Robin Tenenbaum. She's now an ACD at Crispin Porter, maybe? I don't know that for sure. But yeah, she did some really cool copy work, because our idea here was that when you're searching through Ancestry.com, you're this kind of detective. And so in this campaign, we used little words throughout the writing to make you feel like you're reading a novel, but when you get to the end, you realize, oh, this is actually them searching on a computer for their ancestors. So we used words like, she put a mouse scurried across the desk, headed towards the window, he fiddled with his keys. And you might think that's like real keys or a window or a real mouse, but really that's a computer mouse. That's computer keys. That's your computer window. So we did just a lot of wordplay within it. And then at the end, you get this kind of payoff that it's obviously a computer. So he pressed entered, he added the page to his favorites. And we also gave these kind of direct mail pieces where you would get this old-fashioned letter in the mail, which is kind of interesting. And then once you decipher the code, you realize that it's Ancestry.com. So completely unbranded letter just to kind of build that intrigue. And then, yeah, I like it. I'm digging it for a student. I think for a student book, it's probably, I would give it an 8 out of 10. It has some sketchy illustrations, but that's kind of the style that I was going for. So don't hate it. The little flourishes could use some work, but yeah, overall pretty good. All right, so Stride Gum. This was a One Show Young Ones competition ask, where they asked us to essentially come up with a campaign idea for fuels nonstop nonsense. So we came up with this idea called Smack Talk, where essentially you use your phone and your gum case, speaks to you through augmented reality and kind of challenges you to go around town causing nonsense by using your gum and the wrappers to stick places and change up messaging. Slightly vandalism and probably not allowed, but it's fun, and we're targeting this rebellious teenager who doesn't want advertising to tell them what to do. So this was a way for them to be creative too and kind of, cause nonsense. Though I don't recommend ever sticking anything on a public fire alarm. I think that's completely wrong. You shouldn't do it. Be safe, everybody. But for this campaign, totally worth it. Design of the packaging, not great. It's cray, which I like craziness, but not the best. But I would give this, I don't know, for the concept, 7 out of 10. All right, Raid Wasp Spray. So I actually like this, and to be honest with you, this was probably one of my favorite campaigns, even though it was not fully blown out. So my big critique here is that I would build this out to not just be print ads, but to be a whole 360-degree campaign. How could we make an outdoor installation out of this? How could we put this on social? What would a spot look like? What are other mediums that we could use to really make this pop? But overall, I think the color scheme's not the worst for Raid. It's a pretty simple palette and honestly pretty simple illustration and execution. The shapes are pretty sharp, which was new for me back then because I felt like I did everything in Photoshop, when Illustrator is really the way to go with a piece like this. The Raid logo is far too big, though Raid would probably love that. Any brand loves their logo as big as possible, and I think the biggest frustration you'll see when you go into the ad industry is you make a logo the size that you feel like is right, and the client wants it 6 times that size. So that will happen, but overall, cool idea. This just idea of Raid giving you this empowerment to take on the wasp because you're so far away from them when you're shooting it at them. Yeah, cool with it. Like it. 8 out of 10. Don't hate. All right, so Cliff Z bars. So these were Cliff bars for kids, and the idea here was just fueling their kind of imagination and fun. So I'm iffy about this one. I think for this, it's slightly low-hanging fruit. I think fueling your imagination and stuff is something a lot of kid brands do, so it's not like a game changer by any means. But I think that this installation to the right is at least interesting, where essentially it's getting kids to be active to retrieve the Cliff bars. So this would be an in-store installation where, they climb this kind of rock wall to just a little bit to get to those Z bars. And yeah, there might be some issues when it comes to safety, but it was a good shot. It was thinking in retail, which actually not a lot of students do. So I commend my past self for this. Good job, because now I'm in a shopper marketing agency. So this showed that, I had that shopper marketing skill set all along. They just didn't know it yet. So cool. I like the installation. The print ads obviously could use work. This is where I first learned about repeating line work, but didn't use the blend tool if you've seen a previous video. So this took forever, and you can tell because they're not perfectly aligned and stuff like that. But I don't know, I give it a 6 out of 10. All right, Claritin, yay. Okay, so this was one of those things where you put a million ideas in front of someone and none of them are hitting, and then finally on idea 95, you look at a box that says allergies are annoying, which is a true human truth. It's simple. It's not groundbreaking, but it worked. And so for this, having dust mites and ragweed and whatever causing havoc and doing things that people hate, like talking on the cell phone in a movie, or even though check out that phone, that is not a new age phone, so you can tell this is a little outdated. Or ragweed kicking your seat on an airplane. I mean, it was just showing allergies doing annoying things, and usually characterizing things like this can be a huge risk, but in this case I don't really care. I liked it. Obviously, again, I wish I would have done more executions, radio spots, digital. I think this would be a really funny social campaign if done right. So I stuck to print, which is fine for like your first book, but definitely try to push it further than that. If you can tell, it's super shaky illustration style. It almost looks like someone was storyboarding out a commercial rather than this being a final printed piece. But I literally shift clicked in Photoshop every single line in this piece. And if I could go back, I would use Illustrator and make very clean, sharp lines and, you know, have better color fill and just overall effects. So yeah, it's a nice effort, and I still think the idea is fun, though not super, you know, creative. So I would give this an 8 out of 10, don't hate. All right, Victorinox luggages. So I started to, I worked with a guy named Andy Verderosa. He's, is he a senior copywriter right now? I don't know. He's super talented though. I don't know exactly what agency he's at anymore. But this was just like a little summer project where on the side we were like, hey, you want to do like an extra campaign for our book? We were both interning at the same place, and so we went for it and just chose Victorinox luggages or Victorinox suitcases, and came out of this idea of out of sight, peace of mind. So when your luggage leaves you and you check your bag, you kind of you don't really know what happens to it again until you get to where you're going and it comes through that conveyor belt. So we just highlighted the different features of it. It has a built-in lock because now is not the time to test your faith in humanity. I believe that today. Donald Trump. Just kidding. I don't want to get political on this video. I don't want to get political on this channel. So if I ever do anything like that, definitely thumbs down this video or that video or whichever video. Durable, since your bag experiences turbulence before even boarding the plane. And then we had this kind of installation where in those top cubbies of airplanes, I don't fucking know what they're called anymore, overhead compartments, that's it. We had these like straps that will hold luggage in place so they're not shifting around during the flight, and that emulates the straps that are within the actual luggage itself. Kind of cool campaign, not like the most creative thing ever, but also not the worst because it highlights features. It's a campaign that highlights the features, and it's relatively clean art direction. I didn't totally fuck this one up. It's my first time using the 3D tool in Illustrator, I remember that. So I would give this, 6.5 out of 10. Let's go with that. All right, so Aaron Brothers. So this was Aaron Brothers Frames. It's a frame store, and basically this was a print ad campaign where it told a story on the back of the frame, and then you would flip it over to reveal the piece that is being talked about while also displaying the Aaron Brothers logo, so that the conclusion of the story and the brand happens to be one flip on the page, which is a cool concept in theory. I don't think we nailed it by any means, but I think it was a good effort. So I don't know, 5.5 out of 10 maybe. Yeah. All right, UFFIZI bunk beds. So teamed up with some really cool partners on this, and copywriter Cody Tidmore. This is still one of my favorite lines, and it was a student book thing, and I still love it, so I don't care. But the monster under your bed doesn't seem so scary when it's 6 and wearing race car pajamas. Fucking genius, Cody. So good. But yeah, the idea here was just it's better to sleep in pairs, and he came up with this awesome tagline, "They're there." So like they're there, like it's okay, but also they are there, because sleeping in pairs is just easier. It's more fun, and you kind of grow up together. So this was pro bunk beds and just selling bunk beds, even though this is maybe the most expensive bunk bed to ever exist. They don't sell it anymore, so nice try if you would like to find one. Cool lines, cool art direction style. I actually still like this style. I mess with this offset color blocking all the time still, and yeah, cute little illustrations. Okay, so anyway, I guess my thing here is cool campaign, cool style and stuff, but again, push it, do more than just print. 3 print is always a nice base, but then what can you layer on top of that to really make it pop? We did come up with some ideas like a game app. Just be careful with apps and video games based on product, because unless they're done very, very well, it's an extremely low-hanging fruit. It's easy to come up with a game for like everything. So we did some kind of Tetris style game to fit your bunk bed in your room just right. And I don't know. It's more of a first thought. So be careful with that kind of stuff. Don't just do extra executions to do extra executions. Make sure they work. 8 out of 10. Kind of tugs at the heartstrings a little bit. It's mom's going to be the one making the purchasing decision. So yeah, solid. Don't hate it. So that's my book. That's the first book. That's the book that I brought to my first interview ever and got denied, and my second interview ever and got denied, and then my third interview and I got the job. I got the internship. So don't be discouraged if you think some of this is good. Don't be hateful if you think this all sucks, but this is the first attempt, and you got to understand that every time someone's critiquing your portfolio, it doesn't necessarily mean their opinion is the right one or that you need to change anything. Now, if you hear the same things over and over and over, I probably recommend maybe being honest with yourself and changing some things. But usually it's just nice because someone will help you push it just a little bit further. And sometimes that's all it takes to take a campaign that might be a 5 and get it to like an 8, is it just needs a little extra help. Maybe you didn't know the best tools to use to create an effect. Maybe you didn't know the best mediums in which to execute that idea in. And the more you start to get critiqued and make changes, the more you'll start thinking that way too, and you'll start thinking more objectively, because it's very easy to get romantic about the pieces you're working on. It's very, very easy to just, keep them just because you're like, I don't have that many campaigns, I need to keep them all in my book. But it's better to have 3 awesome campaigns than to have like 6 just so you can say you have 6. You don't want a creative director to accidentally click the wrong one that you don't care about. Make sure they see the stuff that's good. Your book is judged by the worst piece. Just really make sure to honor yourself and honor your book and honor the work that you've done and put your best foot forward. So that's it for this portfolio critique. Send in your books. I would love to critique them. If you're cool with putting it on the channel, just put that in the email. If not, totally understand. We'll keep it private. It is kind of a personal thing. But yeah, so until next time, thanks for watching.